Are faith and science enemies? Is one blind faith and the other cold facts? Today's video might surprise you. This seeming conflict just might be a myth. Let's get into it.
You know, we hear it all the time. Faith and science. They're complete opposites, right? One's all about blind belief, the other is about cold, hard proof. But is that really the whole story? What if I told you that the scientific worldview itself is actually built on a foundation of faith? Let's dig into that. Okay, so this is pretty much the picture most of us have in our heads. Over here, you've got faith, belief without evidence, religion, dogma. And over on this side, you've got reason, objective facts, science, empiricism. It's this really clean, simple dividing line. But what the research we're getting into today shows is that this whole narrative, it's just not that simple. It might even be a totally false choice. And that really brings us to the central question of this whole explainer. What if that scientific worldview, specifically a materialistic or naturalistic one, is also built on its own set of foundational beliefs? Beliefs that, get this, can't actually be proven by science itself. Pretty wild, right? Let's investigate. All right, so first up, we're going to tackle what you might call the myth of neutral science. This is the idea that a scientist just walks into the lab as a complete blank slate with no assumptions. But to really get a handle on this, we've got to make a really important distinction first. Okay, so first we have something called methodological naturalism. Now, don't let the fancy name fool you. This is basically just a ground rule for doing science. It's like saying, hey, when you're in the lab trying to figure out why something happened, look for a natural cause. It's a practical tool, a method. It's not a grand statement about what is or isn't real in the universe. But then, you get this other thing, ontological naturalism. And this is where a really subtle but absolutely crucial shift happens. This takes that practical method we just talked about and turns it into a full-blown philosophy. It's the belief that the natural world, matter and energy, is literally all that exists. And that leap, going from a simple tool for the lab to a total worldview, well, that's not a scientific conclusion. That, my friends, is a leap of faith. It's a philosophical commitment. Okay, so now let's pull back the curtain even further and look at the hidden articles of faith that are baked right into the scientific method itself. I'm talking about the core principles that science has to assume are true before a single experiment can even get off the ground. This is fascinating. What you're seeing here are the very pillars of science. And guess what? They're all philosophical beliefs, not scientific findings. I mean, take the uniformity of nature. A scientist has to believe. They have to have faith that the laws of physics will be the same tomorrow as they are today. There's no way to prove it. Or how about intelligibility? Why should a universe that supposedly came from a random, mindless Big Bang be understandable by our little minds? There's no reason it should be. And the laws of logic themselves, these are abstract, non-physical rules. Materialism says only matter exists, so where do these laws come from? You see, these aren't things science proves. They're the articles of faith you need to believe before you can even start doing science. So that's the foundation. But how does this all play out in the real world? Well, let's shift gears a bit from just the method of science to the grand story that naturalism tells about where we all came from. And as you're about to see, some of the key chapters in that story require a huge leap of faith. One of the most mind-blowing discoveries of modern physics is that our universe is balanced on a razor's edge. The fundamental forces and constants are just so exquisitely precise. If you took something like the cosmological constant and tweaked it by even the smallest, most infinitesimal fraction, well, the odds are just staggering. We're talking 1 part in 10 to the 120th power. That is a 1 followed by 120 zeros. I mean, we can't even comprehend a number that big. If it were off by just a hair, you'd have no stars, no galaxies, no planets, no chemistry, no life, nothing. It really truly seems like the universe was set up just for us to be here. And this right here brings you to a fork in the road. It's a choice between two kinds of faith. On one hand, you could say this fine-tuning points to a cosmic designer. Now, to avoid that conclusion, the naturalist has to propose something else. And that something else is the multiverse. The idea is, sure, our universe is lucky, but there were infinite other universes out there, so one of them was bound to hit the jackpot. But here's the catch. The multiverse is, by its very nature, completely unobservable, untestable, and unprovable. It's a belief in an infinite number of unseen worlds just to explain away the evidence in the one world we can see. And look, this isn't just me interpreting things. For some, this is an explicit, out-in-the-open dogma. Just listen to what the late Harvard biologist Richard Lewontin said. He was incredibly honest about it. He said that scientists like him have a prior commitment to materialism. He said they stick with it even when it seems absurd because, and these are his words, we cannot allow a divine foot in the door. Think about that. The worldview comes first. It's not a conclusion from the evidence, it's the non-negotiable starting point that shapes how they see everything. So, this commitment to materialism doesn't just run into problems when you look out at the vastness of the cosmos. It runs into a huge problem when you look, well, inward, at our own minds. Because if materialism is true, can you really honestly trust a brain that is just an accident of survival? The philosopher Alvin Plantinga came up with this brilliant little thought experiment to show the problem. Picture one of our ancient ancestors. He sees a tiger. Now, what's the goal? Survive. What's the behavior? Run away. A true belief, like, hey, that tiger is dangerous and will eat me, definitely makes him run. But what about a false belief? Like, wow, that's a super cuddly kitten, and I love it so much I want to run away from it now so I can pet it later. The behavior is exactly the same. He still runs away. You see, natural selection doesn't care if your beliefs are true. It only cares if your behavior helps you survive and reproduce. And this leads to a really devastating question for the naturalist. If your mind is just a collection of atoms fizzing away, a machine that evolved purely for survival, why on earth should you trust it to figure out the truth about anything, especially abstract truth like quantum physics or, and here's the real kicker, the truth of naturalism itself? The argument kind of eats its own tail. You have to take a giant leap of faith to believe that a blind, unguided process just happened to produce a brain capable of discovering truth. So when you put all these pieces together, the whole debate just gets turned on its head. It's not faith versus reason anymore. It can't be. The real debate is about which set of foundational beliefs, which faith, actually makes more sense of the world we see around us. And this table makes the choice really clear. Look at these big questions, side by side. On origins, a theist starts with a necessary being, God. A naturalist starts with the universe or a multiverse as just this uncaused, unexplained brute fact. For life, one assumes intelligence and creation, the other assumes life just spontaneously generated from non-living chemicals by chance. Something, by the way, we've never ever observed. On every single major question, from reason to consciousness to morality, both sides begin with a core, unproven assumption. Both require faith. So when you boil it all down to be a consistent naturalist, you really have to take on board these 6 incredible leaps of faith. You have to believe in something from nothing, order from chaos, life from non-life, a mind from mindless matter, reason from non-reason, and morality from a universe that is, at its core, amoral. Every single one of these is a huge philosophical leap across a massive gap in our knowledge. So in the end, it seems pretty clear that everyone, and I mean everyone, is operating on faith. Nobody approaches the world as a totally neutral observer. We all have a starting point. And so the real question isn't if you have faith. The real question is, what or who have you placed your faith in?
I'm looking forward to reading your thoughts in the comments. Please like and subscribe. This has been John from Deeper Dialogue, and thanks for watching.